Welcome to the finish line with Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura. The finish line is all about finishing our quilt tops. The last couple of videos we talked about quilting our quilts upside down. So we were actually quilting so that we're looking at the back of the quilt, not the front. We covered free motion and stenciling or using pantographs for the back. Today let's talk about letting the fabric do all the work as we're quilting these quilts upside down, which means there'll be no marking involved at all. There are a lot of fabrics and quilt backing fabrics that we can use the design to follow quilting. Some work better than others, and then there are some that are designed just for that very thing. As we buy the fabrics, we need to have an idea if we're going to be able to use the design as a quilting design. There are some patterns that we're going to be able to follow right at the machine. But before we bring it to the machine, I would recommend quilting, but not with the machine, with markers. Get a clear sheet of plastic, and this is what is used to cover tablecloths. You're going to be able to put that plastic over top of the fabric, and with dry erase markers, you can practice. With the plastic on top, trace the design, just as if I was sitting at the machine. And after a while, we're going to be able to see the path. And in this case, this pattern isn't a long column. It's continuous, except for these little figure eights in between. But this spot is small enough, we don't need to worry about it, or you could go back and do it. When you've done practicing, we can just take those marks off. And the fabric is safe and sound underneath. This leaf pattern will also work. We can follow this pattern, go around the leaves, and follow that leaf on one side, and then when we come down the other, we can continue that spine and branch off into different directions. And eventually, we're going to have this whole area covered. This is a wide quilt back from canvas, so it will go together very quickly and we'll be able to cover a lot of space, and it will look really nice from both sides. This pattern is called Swirling Splendor, and we won't be able to do all of them, but we could find a path that is comfortable. This design has these tiny little prints, and they're just the size of my finger. But if you wanted to do some micro quilting, this is a great option. The plastic goes back down. We're going to go around on one side and back on the other. So I'm going to use this as a guide, and it's going to keep me in that order. So I'm going to go on one side and then back on the other side. You can see we would have these little tiny curves, and it'd be one row after another. So it would look like long chains. This particular print would be very tiny to follow. It would look awesome, but it definitely is a very tiny print. You could use just some larger paths just to keep your stitching straight and not really follow anything. Just sort of have these blocks that are random. We can also get panels that are designed to practice ruler work. These two panels are put out by Bernina. They are not wide panels, they're only about 22 inches long, so they'd be good for a table runner or a bed runner. And we would be able to practice the ruler work using all of these different designs, and then when it's flipped over, we would have the quilting on the front. My favorite one is this fabric backing. We have this ecru color and a white. The backing already has our design, and when it's washed, the design washes away. This design is done in a long row, but they all join together. We have some beautiful big feathers and some flowers. This fabric is your wide quilt back, So when you get it, you are going to have this wrinkle, which is where it's folded. It is recommended that you don't press it, but I have pressed it and the ink still comes off. But I only lightly pressed it, just enough so that it was going to lay flat. And to base this, I would use a pin-based method or some type of a fusible. The fusible, you're able to just spray your backing and your batting and it's going to stick together. And then you're going to be able to follow the pattern. I did spray base my layers together. I will be quilting this on my Q20, but you can use this on any machine. Because I have a little green here, I'm going to use a green thread for the top and the bottom. The thread is a glide thread and the color is called celery. My personal preference to quilt this is to quilt it from the selvage where we have the writing. I do have my 3 layers together, and I do want to be sure that I don't fold this front fabric over. So I will really pay attention to that as I pass it under the machine. I take a look and find the path that I want to start, and I start. By practicing on that plastic, it will give you an idea on what direction you feel comfortable going in. This pattern has some beautiful loops. A nice big flower. The rows are about 12 inches wide and the repeat is about 24 inches. We have a nice big 14-inch feather right down the center, and then all of the pattern comes out. We have all of these beautiful swirls, feathers, flowers, and I quilt right off of the quilt. It's all going to be trimmed down after. When the whole back is done, we get to have the reveal, the surprise on the front, and we get to see how beautiful all of that stitching is. Big feathers, big flowers, big swirls. Once all of the quilting is done, we're going to be able to trim it, bind it, and wash it. The quilting has been finished, the binding has been put on, and it has been washed. I can see big, beautiful feathers, some flowers, and some swirls. And when we look at the back side, all of this ink has washed right out. And we see all of that beautiful quilting with no markings. There are so many different backing choices that we can use. We can use the designs that are already printed on the fabric and follow those flowers and leaf designs, or we can get these backings that the designs just wash away. This wash away backing fabric is available in the 2 colors, this accrued fabric and the white, and they're available from Benartex. So any quilt store that sells Benartex fabric will be able to get these backings. To wash out these blue marks, we need plain old water. No soap, no fabric softener, just water. I put it in the most delicate cycle on my wash machine, let it go through its cycle with just plain water. Then when it comes out, I'm able to give it an inspection and make sure all of the ink has come out. So far, every single time, all of the ink has come out. But sometimes the soap and fabric softener can actually set different inks from different pens. So it's important that we wash it first, just with water. Then after that, we can wash it any way we want to. These wide back backings definitely make it really easy to get the quilting done. We do not need to mark the quilts or the quilt backing. We can just sit down and get quilting. Pre-marked quilt backs. It really can't get much easier than this. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, Come on back. Let's see what we're talking about next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.